Welcome to On the Record. I'm Chris Vanocur. Today, a special Vote 2006 Voice of the Voter debate. Our guest will be Utah Senator Orrin Hatch and his Democratic opponent, Pete Ashdown. In just over 2 weeks, Utah voters will be casting ballots for, among many other races, the U.S. Senate. And the two leading candidates are, to my right, Republican incumbent Orrin Hatch, who is seeking re-election to a sixth term, and next to him, Democratic challenger Pete Ashdown, who owns a successful and local high-tech business. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Happy to be with you.
Thank you, Chris.
You'll, I'm guessing, be happy to know we're not going to start with a question from me, but a question from a Utah voter, and here is that question.
Why did we go to Iraq and why don't we get out?
Senator, a two-part question. Why do we go to Iraq, and essentially how do we get out?
Well, we're in a war like we've never been in before, and it's a war on terrorism. And the president decided as a policy, not so much from intelligence, but as a policy, that we had to take it to the people in Iraq. And of course, by doing that, in both Iraq and Afghanistan, we have not had a terrorist incident over the last 5 years. We've had plenty of tries. We've actually captured a whole bunch of terrorists and convicted a whole bunch in this country because of the Patriot Act. But in all honesty, Saddam Hussein was a bad actor. He had violated over 12 UN resolutions. He had killed over 300,000 of his people and 180,000 Kurds in the north. And of course, let's face it, he had not disclosed whether or not he had weapons of mass destruction.
How does this war end?
I think we have to win it. We're going to have to take them on as we have been. We've got to continue to educate and train their soldiers and their security people. We now have over 300,000 of them trained. They're starting to take over in certain areas, but we're going to have to win this war. If we don't win this war, we'll have terrorism here.
Mr. Ashdown, your reaction to the senator's response?
Well, I think we need to dig a little deeper. Saddam was a bad actor, and he was certainly somebody we should have deposed. But how did he get to that stage? In 1982, Saddam was put back on, was taken off of the list of terrorist countries. And I want to know from Senator Hatch why that happened. I also want to know from Senator Hatch why, after he used chemical weapons, we shipped him anthrax and botulism.
If you were elected senator, what would you do about the future of this war?
We're trying to establish democracy over there. That's the latest goalpost. It's moved from weapons of mass destruction to opposing Saddam Hussein to we're trying to establish democracy. We're trying to establish stability over there. I think it's difficult for us sitting here in Salt Lake to say this is what's happening in Iraq. I think the best experts on this situation in Iraq are the Iraqi people. And if we're trying to establish a democracy over there, we should ask the Iraqi people what they want from the Americans.
You mentioned you had a couple questions for Senator Hatch. Pick one question on this topic or any other that you'd like to ask him.
Why did we ship anthrax and botulism to Saddam Hussein?
Well, I don't know that we did ship anthrax or botulism to Saddam Hussein. As a matter of fact, we have known for years that Saddam Hussein is a bad actor, that he's been lying about weapons of mass destruction, that he's been killing his own people and the Kurds in the north. We also know that he has been spreading terrorism, giving $25,000 to families whose kids blow themselves up to kill others. He sponsored terrorism, has been a world sponsor of terrorism, and of course, at one time, we were friends with the Iraqi people. And of course, we even supported Saddam Hussein when the Iranians attacked them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the right thing to do. All I can say is that in our foreign policy, we do whatever is best for America. But I don't know of any anthrax or botulism that was given to him.
He was taken off the list of terrorist countries in 1982, though. Why was that happen? Why did that happen?
1982 is a long time ago. We're talking about terrorism today, after 9/11, where 3,000 Americans were killed, and people have been killed all over the world.
You were in office in 1982, though, right?
That's right. That's right, but I didn't control the foreign policy of 1982. And all I can say is that at that time, we considered him more of a friend than those in Iran. And rightly or wrongly, that's the way it was back then.
Senator?
We're talking about today, right? Today is, are we going to Are we going to protect our country? Are we going to protect the world? Are we going to make sure that the Iraqi people have a chance for democratic principles? Seems to me they wanted over 80% of the Iraqi people went and risked their lives to vote in that for their constitution and also for their democratic form of government.
Mr. Hatch, being a lawyer, you get a chance to cross-exam. Would you care to ask your opponent a question?
Well, you know, down in St. George, you said that you would like to do a high-speed 300-mile-per-hour railway from Fremont in the north to St. George in the south. Now, I did some checking on that, and the UTA tells me that if we could do that, the most we could have is a 180-mile-per-hour train, but that it would cost $100 million per mile, or a total of about $34 billion.
Your question
well,
is?
I'm getting to it. That would be about $14,000 for every man, woman, and child in Utah, about $60,000 for a family of 4. How are you going to pay for that?
Much of my campaign is about accountability, making sure that our government is spending our tax dollars wisely, because right now we don't have accountability. And when I hear about Halliburton washing loads of laundry for $100 a pop, I think we have no accountability in Iraq. I think we have no accountability in our Department of Defense. I think the savings are out there. I think the money is out there. I think the American people are taxed enough. But what was not happening is we don't have a full accounting for what is happening in the departments of our government, and we don't have a full accounting for what's happening in our representatives.
And my question is about your decision that you would like to build a railway from Fremont in the north to St. George in the south at a cost of about $34 billion. How are you going to pay for that?
Well, the roads...
Or is that just typical
the
Democratic Party
roads built
politics?
50 years ago, built by Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican I might add, have cost this country over $1 trillion.
But not $100 million a mile.
They've cost us over $1 trillion, and there's been an economic benefit towards having that. The problem we have with roads right now, and anybody in St. George will tell you this, is that we can't build any more roads in these areas. We can't build any more roads in Los Angeles. High-speed rail is how we balance that out. And the rest of our international competition has it. I say we should have it too.
Let's do this. Let's approach the question this way. And Mr. Hatch, why don't you take a minute, and then Mr. Ashdown take a minute. Specifically, what would you do to reduce the deficit?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. One thing that I fought for the whole time I've been there is a balanced budget amendment. And we were able to balance the budget when the Republicans took over the Congress for the first time in 40 years, back in 1997. But the fact of the matter is we've had the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, we've had all of these natural disasters. If we had the approximately $618 billion that all of these things have cost us, we'd have a balanced budget today. Even so, as bad as it's been, we were expecting to have a $400 billion deficit this year, and because of the tax relief that we've given the American people, the stimulation that has come, the productivity that we've gained, it's now down to about $248 billion. It's still too high, but we're going to have to work on it, and of course, hopefully, we'll be successful in Afghanistan and Iraq, and if we are, that will alleviate a lot of the pain and expense that we have right now.
Mr. Ashdown, same question. Why don't you take about a minute, and please, if you can, give me some specifics about how to reduce the deficit.
We have new technologies in front of us that allow transparency. I believe that every department in the United States government should be posting their budgets and their expenditures online on a monthly basis. And we can be able to find things like people taking private jet flights at the beginning rather than 20 times after they've been doing it. That's just scratching the surface of how we can save money. I believe that farmers want to see an efficient Department of Agriculture. I believe teachers want to see an efficient Department of Education. And those people, having that window into Washington, will find the accountability and trim down the waste that we have today.
Gentlemen, I'm going to let you in on a bit of a secret about how we reduce our deficit. We're going to pause for a round of messages. You're watching On the Record, and we will be right back. Welcome back. I'm Chris Vanocur. You're watching On the Record. Today, a special Vote 2006 Voice of the Voter debate. It's a U.S. Senate debate between Mr. Orrin Hatch and Mr. Pete Ashdown. And as we did in the last segment, we're going to start things off with a question from a Utah voter.
Do you believe that our founding fathers would be proud of the way our country is headed right now?
Mr. Ashdown, let's start with you.
I don't. I see a whittling of the Bill of Rights. I see invasions into our privacy. I see a government that has grown out of control, that is larger than anything we've had in the history of this nation. And I would think that they would want to see us try and get back to the basics of the Constitution. The basics are privacy, liberty, and freedom, to me. And I believe that that's what the founders fought so hard for. Not only that, but to allow people to live their lives in the way that they best saw fit without government intervention coming in and telling them that what they're doing is wrong, or without government intervention coming in and looking into their daily lives on an ongoing wholesale spying basis.
Mr. Hatch?
Well, let's face it, we're overtaxed, we're over-controlled, we're overspending. We've got the federal government almost doing everything in our lives. The people who set up the Constitution wanted the state and local people to have mainly the control over their lives, and the federal government to take care of national security, and to take care of protecting us, and of course doing the things that only the national government can do. I think they'd be very disappointed with some of the Supreme Court decisions that have come down, that have really flown in the face of the vast majority of the American citizens. I think that they would be pretty upset at our failure to balance the budget over the years. And of course, I think there'd be a lot of things they'd be pleased with too. We have made some strides in some ways that are very good. Civil rights, civil liberties, a number of those facets, we've come a long way. And I think most of the founding fathers, except the ones who were from the South then, would be pleased that we have given freedom to all people in this country, and that African Americans are treated with fairness today compared to back then.
Mr. Hatch, take another opportunity, if you will, and ask your opponent a question.
Well, let me see if I can come up with another one. You indicated that we should be, I think in some of the interviews you've had, and I don't want to misquote you, but you indicated that you felt that we should act in accordance with international treaties. One of those international treaties is an International Criminal Court, which would be based, as I recall, in Italy. Now, why would we make our generals, our leaders, our admirals, and our military people subject to an International Criminal Court that probably would be in the hands of many countries that are not democratically oriented, who hate the United States, where I doubt that we would have much fairness, and especially when there wouldn't be much of a right of appeal from that International Criminal Court. And yet you said we should abide by that. I don't think we should.
I think there's abiding by it, and then there's putting the Constitution behind it. And I'm not advocating for putting the Constitution behind some other country's control. I think we can still have a strong country, a constitutional country, and we can cooperate with other countries on law enforcement matters. And that, in my opinion, is the best way we can fight terrorism, by cooperating with other countries on law enforcement matters. Now, we look at some of the countries we cooperate with right now. Saudi Arabia, atrocious human rights record, a heavily dependent country that we get our oil from, a monarchy. Why do we support them? Now, we don't put our Constitution above Saudi Arabia's ideals, but we still work with them. We try and work with them. I think that there's cooperation and there's putting things behind the Constitution. And I'm not advocating that by participating in the criminal court, that we put our Constitution behind that.
Well, if we do participate in the criminal court, we will be giving up an element of sovereignty that I just don't think we should do. And as you know, I think we should participate with the UN, but I think the UN, we've got to always make sure that there are lots of constraints and that they don't undermine our basic sovereignty that we have ourselves.
Mr. Ashdown, please ask your opponent another question.
I just want to make sure that I've got this quote correct, so I'm going to read it. On November 11th, a few hours after the attack, you said everything is pointing in the direction of Osama bin Laden. They have an intercept of some information that includes people associated with bin Laden who acknowledged a couple of targets were hit. Now, what I want to know, Senator Hatch, is why did you divulge that information at that time, and was it judicious?
I was the one who warned the Clinton administration. I believe another person was the congressman from Florida, and of bin Laden. I said, if you don't get on top of Osama bin Laden, he's going to kill Americans. When that happened, when 9/11 happened, naturally the national media wanted to interview me as a member of the Intelligence Committee. I called the CIA and asked him what I could say. I complied with what the rules were, and of course made it very clear that this was Osama bin Laden. And all I can say is that I complied, and people know that.
And that letting the press know that we were monitoring Osama bin Laden at the time was a good thing to say to not only the press but to Osama bin Laden?
All I can say is I complied with the law. And by the way, you don't think we knew that Osama bin Laden was monitoring us or that we were monitoring him?
Oh, we knew it, but he didn't.
Well, sure he did. He's not stupid. This man is a very, very bright guy. And let me tell you, one of the things we want to do at all times is, well, I tried to warn the Clinton administration. They didn't do anything about it. And I have been right in the middle of all of this right from the beginning. I did talk with the CIA. I did talk with the top officials there. And I complied with their request.
Gentlemen, switching gears for a moment, and we will start with Mr. Ashdown. Why don't you both take a minute and tell us what, if anything, needs to be done about immigration?
I see it as a threefold problem. Number one, the legal immigration system is broken. When we have hardworking individuals like the Shaws in Green River who came here and applied for asylum over a decade ago and were denied after 9 years and 11 months, and they had built a life in Green River. They had contributed to their community. They had abided by the law and gone through the legal immigration system. They were sent home. That is wrong. It's broken. The legal immigration system is broken. The quotas are out of whack. We have a far higher demand for people to come here to work and to study than what the quotas say, and we need to be realistic about it. Second point is we need to secure our borders. I think that's obvious. We need to not only have the Department of Defense down there with Predator drones, but we need to not only be doing the southern border, but the eastern and western coasts and the northern border. And then the third point is once we fix the legal immigration system, once we secure our borders, I think employers should be held accountable for the people they hire.
Mr. Hatch?
I said right from the beginning, if we do not secure our borders first, so that we can prevent further illegals from coming into this country, we're not going to make any headway. I'm totally opposed to amnesty. In 1986, the Simpson-Mazzoli bill, I stood on the floor and said, you're going to grant amnesty to upwards of 3 million people. It's not going to work, and we're going to have 12 to 20 million people in this country again who will be here illegally. So first, secure the border. Now, I agree with Pete. We have to use every high-tech instrument we possibly can, from special visual instruments to drones, to unmanned aircraft, but we've also, just in the last while, put 33,000 special troops down there on the border. We've been training them and trying to get them equipped there. Now, if we can take care of the border, then we have to work on the hard issues, like the Kensaw case that he mentioned. And some of the hard cases involve people who've been here for decades, whose kids are citizens because they're born here. But we can't work on those hard cases till we secure the border. Then we're going to have to make sure that anybody who comes in here is going to have a biometric card that we can automatically tell whether they're legal or illegal. And if a business person then hires somebody who is illegal after having that kind of tool, then we throw the book at the business person. But I don't blame the business people because we haven't come up with a system that protects them.
Take about 30 seconds because I want to be clear on this. There's been talk in Washington of building a new fence or wall along the border. Good idea or no? Well,
not just talk. We actually passed a bill that would provide a double fence for 700 miles. Currently we have a fence for, I think, less than 100 miles. But it would be a double fence for about 700 miles at the most crucial areas where we've had people coming in like a sieve into this country. We've already done that, and that will be some help to us, but that's only a start.
Mr. Ashdown?
It's a Rube Goldberg comical approach to the problem. Building a 700-mile fence on a 2,000-mile border. People are going to get here one way or another. We have to reduce the motivations for them to come here. That's fixing the legal immigration system and holding employers accountable for the people they hire.
Gentlemen, we're going to pause for one last round of messages, and when we come back, we will have closing statements from both of the candidates. Welcome back. I'm Chris Vanocur. You're watching the tail end of a U.S. Senate debate on the record. And scientifically, just a few moments ago, it was determined that Mr. Hatch would have the first closing statement. Mr. Hatch.
Well, thank you, Chris. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm thankful to be able to tell my folks in Utah just exactly what I feel. I've been so grateful to have represented Utah for the last number of years, and I'm just very, very proud of our Utah rich heritage, our people, their integrity, honor, decency, the hard work that Utahns do. And I've tried to represent you back there in every way. You know, I've never been more enthused, never been more excited about serving you again. And if you're kind enough to re-elect me, I can guarantee you that I'll give everything I possibly can to see that Utah values, that Utah teachings, that Utah approaches will take place back there in Washington as I've done over the last 30 years. I just want you to know that I've been able to accomplish a lot, but I can accomplish a lot more because I'll either be chairman of the Senate Finance Committee or ranking member. Same time I become that, Bob Bennett will become chairman of the Banking Committee. And even though California has 10 times the congressional delegation that we do, having us in those positions will give Utah an inordinate amount of power and an ability to get our viewpoints across, to get our Utah philosophy across, to get the things that we really believe in across. And I'm going to do everything in my power to serve you in every way I can. So I'm asking for your vote, and I'm thanking you for the past votes that you've given me. Thanks very much.
Thank you again. That was Orrin Hatch, the Republican candidate in this U.S. Senate race. We will now hear from his Democratic opponent, Pete Ashdown.
I want to thank Chris for the opportunity to speak tonight and talk to Orrin Hatch about the issues. I started this campaign because I was unhappy with the way this country was being run. I started this campaign because I was unhappy with the representation I was getting in Washington. I believe that this is not a game for the rich. I believe that this is a game that anyone should be able to play in. Anybody with a good idea, with a good voice, with a will to change this country for the better should be able to be involved to make things better for all of us, and especially our children. I've got 3 children, and that's why I stood up and decided to run for office. I think it's important that we look at the differences between Senator Hatch and myself. And the number one difference I'm talking about is restoring accountability to this government. Accountability of our representatives and who they meet with and who they work for, and accountability on how we spend those tax dollars that are so precious to this country. I ask for your vote this November, and I thank you for listening tonight.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being with us this morning. And as I say at the end of every debate, we don't encourage people to vote for a particular candidate or a particular party, but we most certainly encourage them to get out and vote on November 7th. Thank you again.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for watching. Now, next week on the Record, don't panic, but we're not going to have a political show. Instead, joining us will be Dr. Kim Clark, the president of Brigham Young University of Idaho, and he will be here next Sunday morning at 9:30. Until then, at least for the next few weeks, I'll be in the political back room.
The views expressed on this program are those of the guests and do not necessarily represent the views of KTVX, its employees, or station management.